We are live. Well, good evening, folks. This is post Super Bowl slash something here. Finally have my computer here. Don't have all my stuff yet. Soon, maybe in a month and a half. Most like I have like 10% of my clothes in my closet, and then 90% of it is not here. So I'm kind of doing what I usually do, wear stuff twice. I don't know. Or I'll take a shower with my clothes on so I can save, and I don't know. Anyways, so the sports ball, I guess, is over. Whoop-de-doo, right? I mean, did anyone think that, and they actually did, there was people out there in the know that said that most likely Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City was just gonna, wipe him out. It didn't. It did not. And what actually happened was that Tom Brady decided to win. In a matter of speaking. Yeah, I gotta fix my settings here. Let's see here. Oh no. I forgot how to do this. Since this is OBS, I'm trying to figure out how to. Hold on a second. Let me try to fix this. Nope. I gotta fix it out here. What in tarnations? I don't know why this is not working. Just quite crazy. What am I doing wrong here? I know what I need to do. I don't want to do that. It'd probably take too much. Hey, wait a minute. I've noticed something here. Right here. Well, that's kind of trippy. Imagine if you were on some psychoactive substances, you could see three or three shadows right there of my ugly face. I think I'm going to be leaving that in. Yes. Anyways, so let's talk about a few things. I am in the States. I am in a southern-ish part of the country. So, where I am at, I am not going to tell you specifically because some of you out there are some whiny little punks. And so let's just put it this way. I don't know where you live. You don't know where I live. Let's move on. Holy crap. I think this is working. Yeah. All right. So Texas won a court battle to fully defund Planned Parenthood. And as you could expect, they're mad that you're not using taxpayer dollars for abortions because that's what they do. Planned Parenthood does that. That's not our only service. Oh. Okay. What other services do you provide other than ripping human beings out of another human being and calling it, Planned Parenthood. Then we know the story about that. They don't really do 100% what they actually say they do. But again, it is what it is. Their main job is to rip humans out of humans. And their other smaller functions is to take taxpayers' money and then immediately donate it to Democrats. See, it's a whole funny circle. So here's a bunch of taxpayer dollars. Here's Planned Parenthood. Taxpayer dollars come from you and me and everyone else to them. They in turn take that money to fund their services, but in reality, they use it to lobby your politicians. They take that money that they have, kick it back to politicians who tell you that we need to fund them. It's a nice little circle of life, I guess. We get politicians to tell us to fund Planned Parenthood so Planned Parenthood could fund politicians. It's kind of funny. Yeah, that's about it. This one is kind of interesting. New York Times dismisses a veteran reporter over insane identity politics standards. It's getting to the point where you can't say anything to anyone because if they're cool and you're just talking normal, hey, how's it going? No one's going to get offended if they're cool. But if they got Kool-Aid hair and you talk to them and you're like, hey, you, what are you talking about? Hey, you, what do you mean by hey, you? That's racist. So it's best if you're in a environment such as that, not to talk to anyone. Not even give them a head nod. Just kind of keep your head down, go from your desk to lunch, from lunch to your desk, and then back home. Just forget all that. We're going to have a company mixer. Nope. I want none of that. You can take your company mixers and shove them up your... Anyways. Let's see. The first is audio reporter Andy Mills, a producer of a very popular podcast, The Daily. But he was also, behind a deeply controversial series called Caliphate, which production followed the story of a Canadian resident who became radicalized and went to the ISIS Caliphate. The man's story was completely fabricated, however, it led to embarrassment for the Times. The paper demoted celebrated reporter Rukmini Calamachi for all of work involving terrorism. He returned the Peabody Award, granted the show, and issued a number of corrections and retractions to the broadcast. Following lengthy investigations by management, Mills was encouraged to step down. Less understandable was the decision that led a longtime science reporter, Donald McNeil, a fixture at the time for 45 years. McNeil came under fire for a distasteful comment he made while leading a student trip in Peru in 2019. During said trip, he had a conversation with a high school student over suspension of another. At issue was the video the third party had recorded at 12 years of age, where he used a racial slur. In his recommendation letter, McNeil explained how the conversation played out. So McNeil had merely clarified the specific word used in an effort to ascertain the context in which it was used in order to determine if there was a cause for suspension. If his version of the events is accurate, then not only is this an inoffensive use of the term, one is directed not at specific but used in almost clinical fashion. But why on earth was this even an issue for the paper? Okay, so reading that right there, think about how convoluted that sounds. If you're talking even in an academic sense, where you're using, I guess you could say, thought experiments or discussing a book that you read over the week. Imagine that, okay? And you get essentially fired for talking hypothetically. Think about how disgusting that sounds. You're just speaking hypothetically. Okay, great. Hypothetically. Oh, you can't do that anymore. Why? You lose your damn job. And think about this. Here it is, 2021. And whenever this investigation started against this, and they had to get, I guess, both sides' story. Let's say you wait 2 years. Why are you holding on to this? Who holds on to things that people save later on and find out, oh, they're in a position of power now, or they're a legislator, or they're a school teacher, professor. You hold on to that information. Let me get this straight. You hold on to some information for 2 years. Get a release and get this guy fired for having a hypothetical conversation. Hypothetical conversation. Now, I don't know anything about this guy. I guarantee he's a filthy fucking liberal. However, I think him getting fired is complete crap. So if I get the rules correct here, when I was in grad school, when I took a full boat pretty much every semester. Only my last semester I had one class just to pass. I took one class during summer 2017, and then one class at the end. So basically I had 3 classes each semester for 2 years. And we'd have these conferences, and it's what they've been doing in the history departments since, I think, 1870, is where you read a book, you read a couple of papers, historical documents or whatever, and then you spend the whole next week of class or day of class, what you learn and what sort of notes, what you took away from it. Imagine talking about something as contentious as slavery is, and no doubt it is. Imagine if you had reading a book, let's say The Peculiar Institution. I forgot who wrote that. Probably doesn't matter. But The Peculiar Institution is an extremely, lauded book about slavery. Imagine if you read that book and you couldn't say certain words. Because in the history department, you just don't drop N-bombs. A lot of people will just kind of unless it's in let's say a text that you're reading and you kind of quote from it, you're like, yeah, this guy maybe said, the master of the plantation would say X, N-word, whatever. Imagine you can't even say that in context, or even yet if you're writing a paper about it, you can't quote that you'd have to just put it in brackets, expletive. Imagine you can't discuss in slavery. You can't discuss this. You can't discuss that. You can't discuss, issues like that. Imagine that. You think this right here, especially if you got a corporate job or just a regular job, let's just say now. Why would you talk about? You definitely wouldn't talk politics, and you definitely wouldn't necessarily talk religion unless you go to church with that person that you work with. What this started out as possibly a noble cause. Maybe we should watch what we say. Maybe we should temper down our language. And over the last 40, 50 years, let's just say up until 5 years ago, let's just say people did that. There's certain words, people can't say. You don't say this in polite public. You don't say this. You don't say that. But imagine now, you bend yourself into a pretzel. Talking about, let's say, at best, a hypothetical situation of someone getting suspended in one of their classes, or suspended, I guess, suspended or suspended. Imagine you can't discuss any of that. Then what good is it to talk to people? Well, again, it should be okay. The issue is that it's not. It's not everybody. We all know that. We know the wacky 10% on the left, and the wacky 10% on the right, and maybe the wacky 10% in the middle. They're going to be wacky. And, I don't think you're going to necessarily pull them away from all that's going on. They're entrenched. And the rest of us, don't want this. Why are we allowing this to happen? It almost seems like, dare I say, I wouldn't say this was necessarily why scroll time. I'm not saying we're not all crazy like this. We can talk normal to each other. Well, maybe up until maybe November 3rd. But there was a point to where at one time we did it. We sort of kept things, sort of close to the chest. Didn't really talk about this, didn't talk about that. I always heard that when you're at the dinner table early on, you don't talk about politics, religion. And I think that's part of the problem. We sort of let the crazy knuckleheads out there with the loudest voice to get power. And those loudest voices now have power. And if you're saying like, well, you're white, you have the white patriarchy and the power. I don't have that. Prove it. You're white. That's not proof. That is a skin color. That is a racial background. Tying that to I'm X racial background makes me more prone to be successful. That doesn't make any sense. Because I could have sat on my ass right at 18, not done anything. I wouldn't have been successful. I had to choose the steps of my life. I had to choose. And I had to follow a certain path. So everyone follows a certain path. But regardless, this blows my mind. We almost can't talk to each other anymore. We can't talk hypothetically anymore. However, I think most of this talk that you can't have certain conversations really only happens in journalism and academia, and now government and big business for all intents and purposes. I guess that's where we're at then. Can't talk to anyone unless, they're not insane. And this one takes the cake. I need some mind cleaner. Hold on. Oh yeah. Anywho, I saw this and I look back at some of the videos I did. I'm the opposite of this. And I'll justify my comments about that. She says, LA Times likens aggressive niceness of Trumpites to terrorist hospitality, polite German political party in the 1930s and 40s. Okay, remember this is the essay penned by journalist Virginia Heffernan entitled "What Can You Do About the Trumpites Next Door?" Just be a normal human being. I don't know. Don't be a dick. Follow HOA guidelines. I don't know. Seeks to present the author's dilemma in dealing with Trumpite neighbors who plowed her driveway without being asked and did a great job. Quotes. Jesus. How am I going to resist demands for unity in the face of the act of aggressive niceness? She asks article the torment she struggles with throughout the essay. The author then compares generosity of such neighbors to that of the designated terrorist organization Hezbollah, which, prior to 9/11, was responsible for more American deaths than any other terror organization. Hezbollah, the Shiite Islamist party in Lebanon, also gives things away for free, she writes. They offer protection, hospitality, and win loyalty that way. And they also demand devotion to their brutal us versus them anti-Sunni cause. Is she insane? Is she going to call him? You see what she's saying there. You see, she's saying that your, I guess, fondness or your devotion to an ex-president is somehow terroristic. I think you know the answer to that question. Of course. The author then reiterates her struggles. When someone helps you when you're down or snowed in, it's almost impossible to regard them as a blight on the world. Heffernan recalls a family she stayed with in France as a teenager who declared their happiness during German Workers' Party 1930s and 40s occupation because the German Workers' Party 1930s and 40s were very polite before addressing her neighbors again. Let's try to understand what I just read there, what I think. These people have been, for the better part of 4 years, Heffernan is a Libby proto-socialist douche canoe, whatever the hell that is. She's saying that these German workers' parties, 1930s to 1940s, were polite at first until they stalked you in the middle of the night when you're walking your dog and you went missing for years. So that's what they're saying. But let's sort of roll back in history here a second. When that German Workers' Party of 1930s and 40s were in power, they were the power. They were the courts, the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. Excuse me. Heffernan is part of all of that. Because right now, her political party runs government. They have power. They are the institutional power right now. And she's saying that a couple of people that helped her out plowed her driveway without even asking. Did a good job, by the way. Are German workers' parties in the 1930s and 40s sort of followers. See, usually, I'm looking at it this way right now. The Democrats, progressives, and liberals, yeah, they're in charge. But why are they so concerned with us right now? Not these who they claim we are. Just normal people that don't think the way they do. They have all the power. They have all the government institutions, the media, all big tech. They have all the power. But why are they so concerned with us? Because we're in the way. They don't have everything yet. They sort of do. They don't have everything yet. So we're the real enemy to them. It's kind of amazing that it is like this way. Because I said, and I'll admit this, that after the election, all that, if I already know, people in the neighborhood who they voted in or not, because they had signs out in front of their violating HOA guidelines or tenants or bylaws or whatever. By the way, do I want to help them? No. I said I'll never help them, whatever. But some of them have families and kids or whatever. So it's like, do I really want to go so far as to not help someone just because they don't agree with me? Perhaps. I sort of softened my tone on that, I guess. So basically, I'm, if I have to help someone, I'll do it. If their hood's up and, my battery's dead. Oh, okay, well, I'll help you out or jump you or whatever. Maybe I'll be softened to do that. Not yet, but maybe I'll be softened to do that. Or like I said, if they came over to, borrow a cup of sugar or whatever. Yeah, whatever. Which rarely doesn't happen anymore. I can't remember when the last time someone's done that. Who doesn't live in like a city or something. In apartments. Anywho. Let me continue on because I'm rambling here. It says, my neighbors supported a man who showed near murderous contempt for the majority of Americans. They kept in business with their support. And this Twitter post from G7 Doug sort of encapsulates all of this. Let me elucidate you with his sultry tones. Since you equate your neighbors as German Workers' Party 1930s and 40s and terrorist organizations, you should probably leave it alone. If they're really that bad, you'll want to steer clear, and if not, your mind may not be open enough to know someone unlike yourself. Peace. Charles L. Smith. So the media is going to criminalize politics, and if you don't toe the line, they will dox you and ID your family for targeting. See where this is going? And maybe it gets pulled back from the brink. Maybe. But the more people on the left side say this kind of crap, and more what politicians do on the left side says this. The essay comes as Democrats continue to target conservatives and paint Trump supporters as the worst criminals, despite having repeated calls for healing and unity. In a recent video created by left-wing novelist Dan Winslow, citizens are called upon to become cyber detectives to monitor and report fellow citizen Trump supporters to authorities while comparing the work of his army of citizens to which led to the capture of Al-Qaeda founder Osama bin Laden. I think We may be behind the ball here, boys and girls. Perhaps we should do that. I wonder if Dan Winslow has a YouTube page. Because right now he's trying to dox people with cyber detectives to point out wrongthink. Yeah. I think it gets worse from here. The clip, which received over 4 million views, claims the greatest threat facing America today emanates from radical extreme conservatives, also known as domestic terrorists, hidden among us. Now, remember back in the Red Scare in the 40s and 50s? They did the same crap. But they were correct, though, because there was commies and socialists rife in the government. However, the radical extreme conservative isn't incorrect. You should say reactionary extreme conservatives, because radical is really only attached to radical leftists. Radical rightists? Radical conservatives. What does that mean? There are no radical conservatives. There's probably some pissed off radical conservatives. Maybe just pissed off conservatives. There's some angry conservatives, disillusioned conservatives, but extreme conservatives, that's a stretch in and of itself. Last week, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi dubbed members of Congress who seek to protect themselves with firearms the enemy. Oh, really? The enemy? Then, Nancy Pelosi, by the way, may I call you Nancy? Your security detail has what sort of defensive/offensive weapon to protect you? So are you the enemy? Of course not. Only the landed gentry, the elite, get to be protected by firearms and people carrying firearms. But you want to protect yourself? How dare you? How dare you? Oh my God, and she says, we will probably need a supplemental for more security for members when the enemy is within the House of Representatives, in addition to what is happening outside. So for far too long, people like myself and other people here on YouTube who are not leftist douche canoes have been saying this for years. More often, I said this in my private life before I got on YouTube, Library, and BitChute, and Rumble, by the way. But I've always said this, and I think I still was talking about this in 2000 with friends and family, whatever, saying there's no way we can live as far as the left and right together. It's not even possible anymore. And I sort of support that. There should be a breakup. Because why should the country right now go through every 4 freaking years just this bullcrap? Basically, the country needs to get together, get representatives or whatever, and split it up 5 different countries. And the theme for Lazlo Live number 2, USA edition, it'll be, what do we call those 5 countries? Because I'm thinking one at least is the United States of Texas and Oklahoma. Maybe not. But we'll go through the like a thought experiment of if the country does, divorce itself, let's say, peacefully and amicably, by the way, not violently like it was in 1860 ish, not good. But we're under a different circumstance here. It wasn't because of slavery, it's because of, I don't know. We'll talk about that later.